Hey, good Thursday morning, everybody. Meteorologist Greg Majestic back with you here in the North Georgia Majestic Studios with your weather update. Special edition here on the morning as we're tracking the remnants of Arthur moving into our area. And we're going to kind of break it all down for you so you know what to expect and you can kind of plan your day accordingly as conditions will begin to deteriorate later this afternoon and going into tonight. All right, we're going to set your expectations and make sure you got the right information so that you're prepared and not scared and ready to go. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this update. Now, the first thing I do want to point out is that officially, no, we don't have any Arthur anymore. Its last update was at 11 o'clock last night. It is no longer history, but what's left of this thing is definitely causing a lot of problems over into Louisiana this morning. So as we look at the satellite picture here, you're seeing a lot of hefty thunderstorms down here in the Louisiana area, down toward Mississippi, as this continues to move up toward the north. And there's been a few tornado warnings, and they got a tornado watch out there right now. As you can see across North Georgia, not bad here for the moment, but it is very soupy. If you haven't been outside just yet, temperatures are in the 70s for everybody. It was like 77 at the airport. It's just very balmy out there, very juicy, very tropical air to say the least out there. Now, the radar is clear here for the moment. That's going to stay that way for this morning. So for folks going into work, you're not looking bad, but we could be seeing some activity start to sneak in here as we head toward the evening rush hour, especially going into the evening hours tonight, when things will probably be getting a little bit dicey out there if the latest forecast modeling is to be correct. Now, we do have, again, that flood watch that's currently in effect here, going from Georgia all the way back over toward Louisiana here. You see this is their tornado watch down here. And I think our main severe weather threat for tornadoes is going to be down here toward the south for the most part. We're going to break that down, though. Now, let me be very clear. Depending on how the evolution of this precipitation comes, we could potentially see some additional counties added here on the flood watch, okay? So as I zoom on in here to North Georgia, we also have a wind advisory up as well. They're kind of overlapping to each other. You kind of see that this brown here. So you do have a wind advisory that's down in the same general area. They're just kind of overlapping. So it is possible we could see some additional counties added up here for the flood watch. But for right now, that's where it's currently sitting here across our region. All right, now here's what the excessive rain forecast is. You can see they've added this very high category here down across Mississippi, over to southern Alabama, over toward the Pensacola area. We still have that moderate risk, that 40% risk there across Georgia, going into near the Atlanta metro area. So obviously the Atlanta metro area is of concern. You got a lot of, concrete down there. You remember the flooding we had back on the interstate a few weeks ago. We could potentially see something like that again going in for tonight. But you notice a lot of North Georgia here is in the yellow on this. So we'll see if this gets updated. There's another update coming out a little bit later this morning, and they'll be updating it throughout the day depending on how conditions evolve with the radar going in for later this afternoon and into tonight. But that's what we're currently looking at as far as the excessive rainfall is concerned. The severe weather risk, again, it looks like there may be some sort of squall line that may kind of form in here. So you see the slight risk down here towards southern Alabama, Florida Panhandle, back toward Mississippi. And we're just under a general threat here, okay? And that's because of some of the squalls that may kind of work their way into the area. There may be some isolated severe. I think I could see several special weather statements, those that are like 40, 50 mile per hour winds, not quite severe criteria. I can definitely see that in the cards for us here for later today, going into tonight especially. All right, so let's look at let's look at the categorical breakdowns here. Sorry about that. We got under a marginal. This is a tornado risk. Obviously, with that squall line is going to be setting up here in Alabama and back to Mississippi. This is where the higher threat for tornadoes are, running about 5% in that brown area. It looks like predominantly like 20, right along 20, the corridor and southward. That's pretty much has not changed since yesterday. So a lot of North Georgia, again, you are not under the concern for tornadoes unless something changes, which is always possible. We're going to keep you updated here throughout the day. But right now, this has been pretty set here for the last day or so. That looks like it's going to be areas south of I-20 where the main tornado risk is going to be. But we're still going to have to deal with the potential wind gusts. That's pretty much everybody here. Again, you get one of these individual storms that flare up on very squally type activity. You can see some very strong gusty winds, perhaps getting up to 50 miles per hour plus with some of those storms. So we'll watch that closely as the day progresses, all right? Now, as we take a look at the current map again, there's your wider perspective again. Seeing a few, again, we have had a few tornado warnings down here near the New Orleans area here for this morning, but this precipitation field is expanding and is moving up in our direction. So at least the morning rush hour is good. Cannot make the same prediction here for the evening rush hour, to say the least. Okay, so once we get this thing to move on out here, and all the last model tracks that we had brings whatever the core, whatever's left of this thing going right over Georgia. So we already know that's not changing here. All right. Now let's go ahead and break down the models. Let's go get into this one here. We're going to be looking at a couple of models. We're staying with both our short-term models on this one. I just don't want to overload you with too much information to where, well, which model do you believe? Okay. They're both telling us generally the same story. The only difference between the two, I would say, is the rainfall amounts, which we're going to break down for you. So here's the high resolution model. Again, you see where that core precipitation we just showed you is coming, and it's coming up this way. So 11 o'clock, we're erupting some spotty showers. It is very juicy out there, guys. It is very buoyant air. Once we start to warm up, it's not going to shock me to see a few scattered showers start to erupt here as we head toward the noon hour. I mean, it is very, very juicy outside, to say the least. Now, the main crux of the activity, though, starts to come into the western portion of the state there as we go into the late afternoon hours. So let me go in here a little bit closer. I'm going to zoom a little closer here so you can kind of see your cities and stuff. All right. Now watch as this thing comes on in. So we got a band of some heavy rains coming on in here. And then you see some more heavy rains coming on here going through the evening hours. The midnight is 1 o'clock. See a lot of heavy rain in here. All right. It doesn't clear until the morning. So until 6 o'clock we're done. And then once that goes on by, we're done. So tomorrow, again, early morning rains, and then we're finished. I'll back that up one more time. So you see scatter storms till noon, and then we see the main activity come in till 4 or 5 o'clock. Like I said, the evening rush hour, I cannot promise you it's going to stay clear. All right. Now let's compare this one to the rapid refresh model, forecast system model. We'll look at that one. All right. Now, like I said, they're generally showing the same general idea here. Not showing as much early activity, but it's a little bit slower, slightly. But you see that squall line, some sort of squall line here coming up here from Atlanta going down this way, but not as much activity up here toward the north. So this one, you see the heavy lines, you see the line of storms kind of racing up from the south. So there could be potential severe weather with that. That looks like a pretty good squall line here coming up from the south, going into northeast Georgia, up toward Dahlonega, Toccoa. Again, the tornado risk would be to the south, but we'll see how this works out as this moves on through. Again, early morning hours, and it clears out. And then it looks like this one's showing that the frontal system catching up here tomorrow with some rains moving on through the region at that time. And this moves on to the south, all right? So those are the two different models, generally showing the same story, but one's a little more robust. The high-resolution model is definitely more robust than the rapid refresh. So let's go take a look at the precipitation differences between the two, all right? So here is the precipitation here on the high-resolution model. And you notice it's showing let me look at this. I mean, this is taking us right through the duration of the event. So we're talking, there's 5 inches there in Jasper. There's 2 there. There's 3 down there. There's 2.5 there in Rome. So as I've been telling y'all, when it comes to tropical rains, tropical systems, the models tend to underestimate totals. They typically do. You can almost add an inch to some of these totals here for the duration. Now, but look at what happens here when I look at the rapid refresh. There's a significant difference in the totals across North Georgia. Check this out. Boom. Way lower. All right. So because of that disparity, I'm like, I don't know about that, but we'll see. I still take that general 2-inch category in around North Georgia. I think south of the interstate, as we start getting Interstate 20, I think we get the higher amounts into those areas. So that is what we're looking at today. Again, so heavy rain threat is there. It definitely favors down toward Atlanta and southward, because that's where I think the heavier squall line that we're probably going to see evolve here later this afternoon. Now, the other part of the equation, again, we do have that wind threat in here, and I want to focus in on this. Let's show you this. This is the winds that we're going to see. So there's going to be some gusty winds out there, especially south of Atlanta. I think that's where the real gusts. Well, check out some of these wind gusts here as I take you through the period here. And we'll back this up here through this afternoon. Again, when you see something like that, that looks like an individual storm there that's maybe producing some gusty winds. And when you look at that's crazy winds. I mean, that's showing some very 79 mile per hour winds, probably not likely. But the point here is that there might be some gusty winds with some of these storms as this moves on through. So look at the wind totals here. Look what's happening to the south of there, like South Fulton at 11 o'clock, 39 mile per hour winds. You see some of that blue kind of moving up into Georgia there. You got 51 mile per hour winds there in Madison. So 51 at Forsyth, this kind of comes on through. So it's going to be very gusty. That's why the wind advisory does favor the south. Doesn't really get into Georgia. But we have some gusty winds there. 27 up in Jasper, 26 in Dahlonega. So I think, 15 to 25 mile per hour winds, maybe some higher gusts out there as this moves on through. And I forgot to change my my banner there. My apologies on this. I just dragged it over. So this goes on through, and then we'll see the winds begin to taper off at that point. So that's what we're looking at right now, guys, is we're just going to track this mess that's coming our direction right now, and just be prepared for the conditions to deteriorate late this afternoon and going into this evening. All right. So if you want to get home early, if you want to stay ahead of the weather, that's probably not a bad idea. We may see some sporadic power outages, I think, predominantly from Interstate 20 south. I just don't see a lot of heavy rains across North Georgia. But again, we'll see the evolution of this go throughout the day. Now it's kind of into nowcast mode. That's what I like to call it. It's nowcast. Now we'll see the evolution of what the storms are doing. We'll watch closely on what the rainfall rates are doing over in Alabama as it proceeds. It kind of gives us an idea of what's going to be coming. One thing's for sure, the air mass, it's extremely juiced. The precipitable water levels are extremely high. So we can get some very heavy rainfall rates that can cause some localized flooding and big headaches here for areas that are in the flood-prone areas. So definitely keep an eye on the kids. Make sure they stay away from any area, creeks or rivers that can come up very fast for that kind of stuff. And this will be going in, again, late today, going into tonight. Most of the day doesn't look too bad, although I do expect we'll probably see some spotty showers erupt here as we get around the lunch hour. All right, that is y'all's update for today. I will be going into the Fox 5 studios for today. I'll be doing the 10 o'clock, and then I'm going to be on Fox Local, okay, because they got FIFA going on there. The big matches in Atlanta today. So starting at 11 o'clock, I'll be on twice an hour at the 11, 12, 1, 2, and 3, up until 4 o'clock, okay? Up until about 3:30, I should say. So I'll be on doing a lot of Fox Local updates. Y'all can check me on the Fox Local app. I'll be doing those twice an hour throughout the day as we're kind of watching this, and then I'll be coming home. Now, with that being said, if it looks like we're going to have some active severe weather going on in the evening, depending on how long it takes for me to get home, we will go live, and we will have live severe weather coverage if warranted. If I feel it's necessary, we will do it going in for tonight. All right, that's y'all's update. Y'all be good, stay safe, and we will see you guys throughout the day. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.